Hello, Professor Kent Lee here. I would like to follow up on my last video about writing difficulties with some further discussion of something I didn't really get to talk about in the last video. I want to talk about some issues related to anxiety in the writing process, language anxiety and performance anxiety. So let's say you're starting on a paper or some other task. And in the beginning stages, you get stuck, writer's block, procrastination, whatever, because of some kind of anxiety. Particularly, you're worried, for example, about the final product, because what you start with, naturally, it's going to be extremely rough, maybe sounds, not very good. But all good works have to start like that. But you're worried too much at the beginning stages, pre-writing, maybe the first draft. You're worried, oh, this is no good. This is bad. You're judging yourself too harshly. You're worried about what the professor's not going to like this. Professor's going to think this is dumb, or I'm going to get a bad grade. This is just not good. This is no good. I can't write very well. And it's only your first draft. You're worried about what the professor will think of you. You're worried about what other people will think of you. So your anxiety is either about the language itself, if you're, for example, writing in English as a second language. Language anxiety, oh, my English is so bad. This is just stupid. This is no good. People are going to think I'm dumb, or I'm going to think I'm dumb. Or the writing itself, performance anxiety, how you perform on the writing assignment in terms of like a grade or score. You're worried at the beginning stages about your grade, your score, or what the professor will think of you, what other people will think of you. They're going to think I'm dumb. They're going to think I'm no good. So this kind of anxiety can be paralyzing, especially in the early stages of writing an assignment. And in doing so, rather than focusing on mastery of concepts, you're focusing on performance. So focus on mastery means like you're focused on learning. I want to learn. I want to, this is interesting. This is a challenge that I can learn from this writing assignment. Instead, you're just worried about your performance, your grade, your score, or performing, so to speak, in terms of doing well, so that other people think, oh, you got an A on your paper. Wow, you must be smart. You're worried about, in other words, how you appear to other people and to yourself, perhaps, because this maybe threatens your self-esteem. And this all may be related to perfectionism or low self-esteem, because in perfectionism, you tend to be focused on superficial learning and doing better than others, or meeting some kind of expectation of yourself that's not realistic, or getting a good score, a good grade. These anxieties might also be related to a sort of dependence, a sense of psychological dependence on other people, rather than depending on yourself. And these characteristics of dependence also tend to be symptoms of poor self-esteem, poor sense of self-efficacy, maybe even depression, and you might need to talk to somebody if you're really having these problems. And again, efficacy is the sense that I can do well on a specific task. I can improve, I can learn. Not just the score, but I can actually learn and improve. I can master this. I can grow in this. I can actually learn something and do well on a particular job or task or learning or assignment. Other characteristics include a lack of this sort of locus or place or sense of control. Locus of control. So if you are kind of healthy and confident and you have good study habits, for example, you feel like you're in control of your learning. Like, I'm doing this because I want to do this, and I have some sense of control. And so, for example, when a writing assignment comes, you feel like you can take this and do something with it that you can either enjoy or at least use as a positive learning experience, a challenge you can overcome. Yeah, I can do this. So you feel like you have some sense of control. So, for example, the professor gives a fairly broad topic, like write about university English education in your country, or write about British romantic poetry. something fairly broad, or write about a particular period of European history. And you feel like, well, I can kind of narrow that down to a specific topic that I can find more enjoyable or useful or kind of interesting. I can do that. So you know how to kind of identify a topic that you can do within the sort of range that the professor gives. But if you don't have this locus of control, it's like, I don't know what to do. Write about British romantic poetry. I have no idea. I don't know. And you just try to tackle all of British romantic poetry, and you don't feel like you can identify a specific, topic within it. More generally, locus of control, you feel like you don't have any control over learning. Maybe you don't feel like you have a control over your life. And this can be a symptom of depression. So if this describes you, please talk to somebody. Talk to a counselor about this. You feel like this is just something imposed from outside by the school, by the professor. I have to do this assignment. I have to do this class. You feel like you're not in control of your learning or your life. You feel helpless. And if this happens over time, you always feel like you're helpless. This could be learned helplessness, which again is also a symptom of depression or low self-esteem, and you may need to talk to a counselor. Learned helplessness means you have come to view yourself as dependent, not capable of doing anything, and you're always turning to others for help. You're overly dependent on others for help, over-reliance on others. Now, I have, for example, talked about the benefits of joining a study group, and that can be good, where you give input and get input from others. It's kind of mutual. It's kind of an equal give and take. But over-reliance and learned helplessness is more like you're always, for example, you feel overwhelmed, you're helpless, you don't have any sense of control or initiative or confidence or efficacy. So, for example, you always need encouragement from others. Like to do a major writing assignment, you need encouragement from others to get started on it. And then maybe you need ideas from others. You feel like you're not able to come up with your own ideas, like how to handle the writing assignment, which is like romantic poetry. Well, I can do this. You don't feel like you can do that. You feel like you always need to get ideas from other people. Can I have some ideas for how to do this? What would you suggest? Again, if this is a regular pattern, sometimes okay, but if this is a regular pattern, that's not very healthy. When it comes to revision, maybe you rely too much on other people for helping with revising your paper. Again, some revision you can do yourself. And yes, it's a good thing in a study group after you've done some revising to trade papers and give each other feedback. But again, this is called peer editing or peer revision, where you give feedback to others and they give feedback to you, and you feel like you're an equal. You're not just dependent on them. It's like you can do some revising yourself, especially with the contents, and then when you've done some revising, you join your study group and you trade papers and you give feedback to others and you learn from that. They give feedback to you and you learn from that as well. You actually learn from the feedback process. Things like, this is good here, but this part is weak. You need to improve this. This is not very clear. You need to improve this. Giving feedback and getting feedback from others like that can be a learning exercise, but it doesn't work if you just feel too dependent and you don't really learn. You feel like you're not able to learn from the process. So yeah, study groups are a great thing when used right. When it's not like you're always the dependent person who's needing help from others all the time. If you're like this, you, again, might need to get some extra help to improve your self-esteem or your learning habits. Self-learning. Let's say the professor gives you an assignment about, a particular era of European history. or writing about English education in universities in your country or your state? Well, do some outside reading on the topic. Learn to take control of your own learning, do some self-learning, or just engage in some learning and studying English on your own. Doing some extra reading outside of class that's not required, just to improve yourself. So learning to learn on your own, doing kind of extra, going beyond what's required of you for the course. Or let's say you're taking a math class and the lectures are no good. It could be that the lectures are no good in a math class or in a literature class. Maybe the professor doesn't know how to teach. Well, you can find extra lectures or reading materials online, written materials, YouTube videos by other professors who know how to explain it better, or even like paid online courses are possible. Learning to engage in self-learning. Now, back to the issues of anxiety and dependence. In the early stages, if you're worried too much about the final product and you're thinking about, oh, what will the professor think? Oh, this isn't very good. You're thinking too much about the final product at the early stages. That doesn't make sense. A lot of works start out really poor and you improve them. You rework them again and again. So at the early stages, if you are paralyzed by anxiety about your grade, about what the professor will think of the paper, what people will think of you, what you think of yourself, your abilities, or the assignment itself, that's probably not very healthy. And so at the beginning stages, like in your pre-writing or writing the first draft, you need to just completely forget about those kinds of pressures about thinking about the final product, what the final product will look like, a perfectionistic worry about what the final version will look like, worrying about the grades or what other people think. In addition to the various pre-writing techniques that I talked about, there's something else you can do for your first draft. And again, maybe do more work with the pre-writing techniques like free writing, just writing down words and phrases and then using some kind of a graphic organizer to connect them and then developing a good outline. But also a sort of method for writing maybe just your first draft. Write it in colloquial freestyle where you don't worry about the grammar. You don't worry about whether things make sense to anybody. No matter how bad it is, how informal, how colloquial it is, just get some basic ideas on paper, even if they're in grammatically bad sentences, incomplete sentences. Just start writing something. Get some sort of a very, very rough draft out that is maybe written in bad English or poor style and lacks a lot of important points and connections and support. Just get something out and then do a lot of revising where you first, for example, focus on the contents, developing the ideas, maybe do some extra reading and get some more ideas to develop, this part of the paper. So a focus on just getting something out that's at first really bad, really crappy. That's okay. Just sort of freestyle writing, and then revise it multiple times. Revise it to focus on the contents, revise it to focus on the development and flow of ideas, revise it to focus on the logic, revise it again to focus on including more sources and more support for your ideas, revising again and again, then to, revise the vocabulary and the grammar and the sentences and all that. That is maybe something you can do if you are having these kinds of problems in writing. Some other things to do, again, do some self-reflection. Think about why you have these problems. Think about, planning your writing, visualizing what you need to do, as I discussed before in the previous video on the writing process. And again, talk to somebody if you need to, if you are having regular problems with this kind of stuff. So that's it for now. I hope this helps. And in another video, I'm going to talk more about writing strategies. So good luck, take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.